Welcome back to another episode of the Appalachian Water Collective and Abundance on Tap, everyone. My name is Alex Corey. I'm here with my powerful co-host, Ashley DeMarco. We are coming to you from the mountains of Western North Carolina, and we are joined today from the other side of the world in Hawaii. This is a founder and leader of our business expansion group, Evolution Era. And Ashley, I'll turn it over to you and let you introduce our guest today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be interviewing Annie G. Davis for our first official podcast interview. It's so exciting to have you on here. You are just such a legend in my life and really the person that inspired all of that's been created out here. So I'm super excited to just drop it in with you. Annie has been in Maui ever since I connected with her through social media, and she has just been on this amazing journey of creating a life of her absolute dreams and taking us on the ride and showing us the ropes. As she learns them, she immediately teaches us. So I'm just so excited to hear her story again and just share it with all of you because it's just so inspiring and empowering. So thank you so much for being here.
Oof, honored, truly honored. Thank you. I'm a reflection of you both and so many of the revolutionaries within our community and beyond that are coming in by the day, who are willing to just take charge and do things differently and be brave and buck the tide of what societal norms have really programmed us to follow and to believe our birthright up until now. And I'm super stoked to be here with you guys. I'm all snuggled up because we're having like the wildest storm of all that probably since I've seen in my last like 17 years here on Maui. So normally I'm outside at the beach, if you guys ever see me on social media, but today I was like, wow, this is like my one cozy outfit and I got it on today for this podcast. So thank you both so much for having me. I'm here in service and in full transparency to share my journey and to share anything that might be helpful to your audience and anyone tuning in right now that is just ready for change in their life, who's ready for just to do things really differently. And perhaps you get to that place by being at a line in the sand moment of being fed up with your current situation. Because I can see a lot of that in the world right now. And we have a very simple, easy, practical solution that has dramatically changed my life. And obviously both yours, Ashley, and Alex's as well. And we're here to do this kind of work. It's really fun.
That's powerful.
Awesome. We got the 3 A's on here.
Yeah.
I would love to start from the beginning because a lot of people who are going to be watching this have never heard your story, Annie. So
okay.
Let's literally start from the days of, the service industry days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like motherhood, beginning of that. Yeah. Let's go back.
Okay. Let's go back. Let's see. How old am I now? So I'm 40 years old now. I'm 33. I'm 33 years old. I live on Maui. I am a restaurant server in the same restaurant I've been at for, at that point, 8 years. I've been in the service industry since I was 16. I did all the things that I was supposed to do before I moved to Maui. That was a turning point of just me totally derailing from societal norms. I was a high school athlete. I went to a state college. I got my 4.5-year degree, plus my minor in hospitality business management. And I landed on that degree after 5 major changes because I just couldn't land on something at the ripe old age of 17 and 18 of what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And there was an incredible wine class. It was like I never drank in college, in high school. And by the time I got to college, I was like, wine, yeah, it goes good with food. And I love food. I grew up cooking in the kitchen with my mom. So I landed on this wine class and I met all these amazing people and they're like, you can make this your major. And I was like, what do you mean? And so from there, I learned about, hospitality and the service industry. And I'm like, I've been doing that like at an Italian restaurant in my high school town for years. Okay, I love to serve, and I love to help people like feel good and make them smile. I loved being a 16-year-old hostess for that reason. So I was like, okay, I can get down with this. This is my major. And this is after going to school for like education, communication, journalism, international business. I was trying to figure it out. So that's the degree I graduated with a minor in specifically in sales. From there, I was hired directly out of school by Marriott. And that was just the way to go. You like set yourself up for life. Right out of school, you got the job, you got the good, consistent paycheck. I was making like $60,000, $70,000 a year. I had, you know, a specific credit card for like all my business expenses. I was closing sales for Microsoft and Boeing and all these group rooms. I was in charge of group room sales. And it was just like, I was in this cycle of, this is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, it's comfortable and easy, but at the same time, I was still in the parking lot of the Whole Foods that I went to go for lunch, crying to my mom and being like, there's got to be something more. Like, I'm in a suit, I'm in uncomfortable heels all day. Like, this just isn't what I want. It was like the first time I started to question things, and she held space for me. It was really sweet. What happened is I made friends with a checker at Whole Foods. He was like this older guy, kind of like surf bum, and I'd always been interested in surfing growing up in Seattle, and everyone thought I was nuts, but I resonated with this guy, and I'd always go to his lane, and I would talk to him and be like, oh yeah, this weekend I'm going down the coast, I'm gonna surf. I'm like, dude, that's the life. Okay. Partner that with the fact that I went to college with a bunch of locals that live on Maui, and that I was still in communication with, that were living this epic life that I wanted. So the combination of all these events of me just like living in this unhappiness, being a single woman in Seattle, looking for an alternative, I started to just pay attention to the signs. And it was like the first time in my life that I ever did that. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I do want something different. So I wound up, we'll just cut, there's a huge long story for another podcast there. I wound up moving to Maui, get to Maui. I'm working in the restaurant industry. I'm making bank all the time. I work like 5 hours a night. I have time to surf all day. It's so epic. I love my life. And then I'm 33 and I'm doing the same thing that I've been doing for how many years now. I moved here when I was, 24, 25. And I became pregnant. And she was a beautiful surprise. We were both very excited, but we knew that our lives were about to dramatically change to some extent. People were like, oh, you'll never sleep again. I was like, you'll never travel again. I was like, you guys don't know. We're going to do this differently. You don't know. And, you know, she came into this world and she definitely didn't sleep, and we didn't either, but we still traveled with her around my, you know, I worked in the service industry, so I could tell them in advance, I could take a month off. But I was still struggling, and well, for the first time, I was really struggling. I was struggling from a place that I thought was comfortable, but the addition of motherhood had really like stretched me in new ways, where I started to, again, examine my alternatives, be like, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. I was looking at other parents that were just like ships passing in the night with their children to stay afloat here. And I thought, this is awful. And I was also postpartum super depleted. So at that time, a girlfriend reached out to me and she's like, hey, I got these superfoods that might help you. And I was like, cool, I want to do it like with you. There was like a 14-day whatever. And I'm like, yes, sign me up. And she sends me the link and I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's one of those. Like, it was an MLM. It was like a network marketing. Like, you sign up, and I immediately, like, I had no experience with an MLM before, but I immediately just had this like stigma of cringe. I was like, Chrissy, I hope Chrissy listens to this, because she was totally like the one who she's one of the catalysts for the reason why I'm a full-time online entrepreneur now. And she's like, you know, I know it's that way, but it's an epic community. And, you know, I found these superfoods to be super helpful. And I'm like, super, 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 sign me up. And I then had a life-changing experience from something that someone else had shared with me. And then she received money back. And I started to think, why would I think that is terrible? Why would I think that it's terrible to support my friend for the information that she shared with me that's also helping me? And so then I went to go share with other women on my social media, just like, I had no intention of making this a business. I just was like, you guys, I'm feeling better. Like, I get up with energy. It's crazy. And I started to make a little bit of money. So we booked a trip to Bali. Me, my daughter's father, and her. We went there for a month, and for the first time, I received income during that time. Small amounts, but passively. It was from people that I had shared these products with who also shared. And I thought, whoa, this is cool. Like, I was like, oh, I want more of this. So I like full on started sharing all the time. I was like, this is amazing. These things are helping me. They can help others. I want to make money. What's not to love? Okay, so I did that consistently for about 2.5, 3 years. But the entire time I was mixing my high top shelf quality superfoods with water, I was like, is this the best water? I have Berkey water. It's really good, but I've heard so many other things. It's, I used to harvest spring water before I became pregnant, and that was a whole ritual, and I stopped and shifted to a Berkey because I just couldn't keep up with like hauling like 5-gallon jugs as a pregnant woman to a river, that was like on the other side of the island. So I switched to a Berkey, but I just questioned it. There was just something in me that was like, okay, there's got to be something more to this. So I had a friend reach out, or I put something on my social media, like I'm interested in trying this kind of water. And I had a friend reach out to me saying, okay, I can get you some through this girl. And so this girl dropped off 5 big gallon jugs, didn't give me any information about it. When I asked her for it, she just pitched me the business, and it was like guys in front of Ferraris. And I was like, I just want to know how much this machine costs. Like, I don't get it. Obviously, it was not the right time for me. Okay. So flash forward 2 years later, I met another woman through the beautiful space that is organic marketing. And she was interested in my superfoods, and I was interested in her water. So we met up. I love the water. My daughter was obsessed with it too. Immediately at 2 years old, she would run across the room for it. And I just was like, okay, I'm back in the space of listening again. Let's give this a shot. And during that time, I was also transitioning out of my relationship with my daughter's father. And it was intense, to say the least. For all the single mamas there who've been through that, and you're just like dividing up all the stuff in the house, it's freaking painful, and it's really hard. And I wish that for no one. But during that time, I was also introduced to a community that was super health focused. They were supportive in personal growth and development. And they also just reminded me that there's alternatives out there. And I immediately said yes to this water. I thought I was going to get it just for the water, but I went all in with the business. And it was a $10,000 investment. It was the first personal loan I ever took out in my life. And it also came at a time when everything, from what I tell, when I tell this story, everyone's like, you had every single thing, every single reason not to do this. I was about to move across the island. I had to quit my job because the commute would be too long, and I couldn't, it made no sense to figure out how to care for my child and get to this job. Like, it just didn't compute. So I was like, okay, I'm going to find a new restaurant job over there. I'm just going to figure this out. So I did the same thing. As I was having a dramatic experience with this water now, I was like, oh, this is the missing link. I started sleeping better immediately after I thought I was doing everything right. I had like heel cracks and hormone imbalances that all of a sudden were just starting to stabilize. Like, I felt my whole body coming back into balance. And I was like, the simplest thing, like, of course. So I did, and again, just like when I go to a good restaurant and I shared it on my social media, and I specifically reached out to 2 friends saying, am I nuts? Because I think like I'm all in on this. And they are like my validators, and they are now my, also my 6-figure business earner partner people that we're crushing life with and working full-time online with. And so, that connection aspect and being able to be seen and be like, you got this, was really helpful. And that's what we provide now in our community, and what you guys are doing. I'm so thankful. So through that process, I was able to make the return on my investment within 3 months by sharing this organically on my social media. I put my daughter to bed, and I would just go on my stories and share how good I was feeling, or sharing about the freedom and the opportunity that I saw, because the first couple checks that I ever received with this opportunity were more than I made in like 6 months working my superfoods company. And it was just like, bang, like light bulbs were like in my face. Like, you guys don't understand. Do you like superfoods? Huh? What are superfoods? Do you drink water? Yeah. It was just immediately, I'm like, okay, all steps have led me to this point. And I was just so thankful and overjoyed. And I just transferred that energy to my audience. And I've brought this incredible woman, Ashley DeMarco, into my life because of that. Thank you. And now I can proudly say it's been 3 consecutive years of running this business online as a full-time single mom, to 6 figures and supporting a community and being able to work like, there's days like today, my daughter is with her dad and this is a work day, but those are like 2 days a week. And then I'll work while she's at school or after she goes to bed for an hour or two. But what I've been able to create because of the way that we leverage time with this opportunity and just the vitality and the essential that we have to offer has completely changed the trajectory of my life. I run this business from anywhere, from my happiest places, in between surf swells and nap times, and my daughter's like, dance performance at school. I have the capabilities to run this business completely around what matters most to me. And that's what keeps me sharing and lit up about this. And we're just getting started. Like I'll be year 4 in July, and I see just endless opportunities for this. Okay, that's a long story. Thanks for listening.
That was a good story.
I love it so much. I mean, I met Annie 4 years ago. This summer it would be 4 years through Instagram, completely organically. She was sharing about the superfoods. She was, becoming a single mom. I was a single mom at the time. And just really resonating with her story. I was just trying so hard to not work like a traditional job so that I could raise my kid, because it's inevitable. Like if you have to work 9 to 5, like somebody else is going to raise your young child. So yeah, I just love remembering your story, and thank you so much for sharing all of it, because it's so important for people to really realize how far you've come. And when you say you're 40, you like look 15 years younger. Like you posted a couple pictures recently of maybe when you were maybe in your younger 30s, and you definitely look younger now than you did even then. So I would love to just hear more of like just the like again, you're talking like the $10,000 purchase you invested in was the Ukon, the shower spa, and the kitchen ionizer. And so like how do all 3 of those products really enhance your health and wealth? Like, right? So obviously you're talking about the wealth aspect and we're talking about the abundance on tap, but like, I mean, you just like got it all. You went all in. And how did that really change that aspect of your life? Because you're already a yoga teacher, you're already eating healthy, you're already drinking the superfoods and doing the detoxes, like, but really adding these 3 products to your life, how did that like really change things up for you?
I love that question. I'm so business focused these days, but I think what's so important is that we have both options for people to, to try this on for themselves, and they're all connected. I find that there is a disconnect for people where they don't think they might want money, but they're not willing to spend on their health, or they want health, but they're not willing to realize that their finances are shot. So yes, bringing them both together, these products have insanely changed my life. And I look at those old photos, and I was, I spent a lot of time in the sun, and I was super sun scorched, and I could see that my skin was like thirsty, my whole body was thirsty. And my daughter had an issue with eczema that I just could not figure out, on her back. It was like a white scaly patch. She's a pretty good temperament all the time, so it didn't really bother her. But to me, I was like, oh, I'm like this healthy, I promote health and all this stuff. I'm walking around with this kid who has obviously something in her system that is imbalanced because she's got eczema. And so that was like, for me, I could talk about that forever and I'll touch on it, but the most impactful thing it was, and for all the moms out here, I know you'll get this, is like, if you have access to the tools that can help your baby feel better and just live in the pure health that they're supposed to from the jump, why not? And so I saw her skin start to change when she was drinking the water just by sampling it. But after we got the shower filter and ionizer, it just like I remember I used to pour baths, and before this thing was coming to my house, I would just smell the chlorine gas fumes and just like this is not okay. I know this is not okay. I used to have a shower filter, but then when you turn on the bath, either you're running it from the shower and it's like spraying everywhere in order to fill it back, or you have this incredible device. So when we switched to that, it was like the first time she took the longest bath. She just did not want to get out. She was like in there for 3 hours, and I'm like, your water, baby. This is again a listening and watching and taking cues from her. I was like, she wants to stay in there. Okay, there's got to be a reason. Within 2 weeks, that eczema patch started to recede. Obviously, my hair. I'm in this new phase of trying not to wash it, but I've never had healthier hair. Like I'm 40, and I found like one gray the other day, but I swear it's because of the water that I'm bathing in. And it also just feels really different. I don't use the same products that I don't use like moisturizers and lotions and extra conditioner all the time. So, I mean, that was just a no-brainer because your skin drinks just as much, if not more than, what you actually think you're sipping on. But then the water and the turmeric itself, for me, I love having an arsenal. I want to feel, we live on an island here, okay? And certain times of events, I should say, there are things that you go to the grocery store for that you cannot have. It's very, very common. Like right now we're having this flood and everything. You go to the store and they run out of like rice immediately is one of the things, spam a lot of times, but like batteries, water, all sorts of things. It's like when ish hits the fan, people go nuts at the store. And I just went to the store and it was like that. And I was like, you know what? I have the baseline accessories of health on tap that will take care of me through any situation. I have water, the most foundational element. And then on top of that, I have turmeric, which wipes out any sort of extra inflammation on top of that. So I love having that and incorporating that into my life, but I also like having it on tap to share. And then the actual drinking water, I've never drank more water in my life. My body craves it. When I go elsewhere, I notice, I'm oftentimes bring my water. I always bring it on a plane, but if we can't bring our machine, we'll go find some source that has it. But I can't even remember the last time I didn't have it. Oh yeah, we were in Texas and we had brought a gallon and we couldn't get the machine hooked up right away because it was a funky sink. And so we were like half a day without the water. And I was like, at one point, I remember grabbing my partner's hand in the car and his parents were driving us. And I was like, look at me. Do you want a smoothie? Do you want food? And I'm like, I just want water. Like, I don't care. Let's go to Ace 100 times. Like, it was this desperation. And he was just like, okay, we got it. Yeah, can we go to, it was kind of like that. So I know to listen to my body. I know to listen to what I need now. And I have never had more energy or felt better now that I'm 40 than I ever have in my life. Like I can work out consistently, heavy weights, training, anything, 7 days a week. My partner's like, you should probably have a rest day. You'll get more muscle growth. And I'm like, why? It's so fun. I feel so good. I crave movement and I crave just like using this physical vessel on a level that I've never had before in my life. And I feel a deeper connection to it. And I know it's because it's because of that. I'm running on all cylinders. I'm running fully hydrated. And I get to see that now. I get to witness that. And everyone else that, is sharing this water and is trying it for themselves and is willing to realize that you can't pour from an empty cup. So what's the most basic way to fill your cup? You're made up of it. Your brain loves it. It's floating in this, Ashley, you run so many incredible courses for us that have explained just the ripple effect of what dehydration can do for people. And I thank you for that because we are so far detached from the root cause of how we're feeling that if we could just get this message out and simplify it for people, that's essentially what we're doing. And that's why we're seeing just a massive impact and a movement that you two over there are creating and we got over here. So yeah, water is life. It's affected me on every single level, every single cell inside and out of my body. And I'm so thankful for it every day.
I have a question going back from prior to your move to Maui. You said one thing that caught my attention and it might help other people, myself included. You said you were watching or listening for signs and you you paid attention. So how did that happen to when you're in Seattle, I think, before you moved over?
Yeah.
How do you train yourself to listen for the signs to make a large change?
That's such a good question. I saw something recently that was like people don't change unless they're really uncomfortable. There has to be like
Mhm.
some contrast in their life. And I feel like there's so many times I've gone in and out of this where I've just been like, life's easy, life's comfortable. And I wasn't willing to look at the fact that maybe I was unhappy. But I think the initiation for me of training myself to listen was to sit in my discomfort. And I learned that in yoga. I was introduced to yoga in college, this like 85-year-old woman who needed a ride home from the gym that I worked at. And we wound up talking, and I was like, this lady's cool. I'm going to go to your class. And she would have us like in these poses, and I would just be like, tap out, I'm good. And her whole thing was like, sit in the discomfort. And ironically, later on, I went in to teach and train in yin yoga, that's like the medicine, is where you sit in that. And it's just a reflection of, every aspect of your life for those yogis out there. But yeah, that's what I was doing. I finally was just willing to face that, and I think my mom helped a lot in this, because I listened to her, and we have a sincere connection of, you got to listen when things suck and you're willing to actually face them. From that space, you can either just stay in the suck, or you can like actually marinate within that enough to crack open to listen to the signs. And that's, some people call that shadow work, some people call that mirror work, whatever you want to call it. If you're willing to face like what you don't like about your life, then you're in the first step of empowering yourself to a better one. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people, but I've found through, community and even family and friends that will hold your hand through that. That's where people start to like kick it into high gear and make a change, because it takes a lot of work to get out of the box that you might think that no one else placed you in but you. And you can, but you got to face your shit. And that's in a nutshell. It was just kind of like sitting with it. My mom was like, okay, sit with it. And I was just like, either I'm driving my car off the 520 bridge like everyone else in the depth of winter that, was highest suicide rates when I left Seattle. It was the most 90 days in a row, no sun, 60 days in a row, no of rain. And I was just like, I don't like this. What am I doing here? And that was a really tough decision to make. I'm not going to make light of it. My parents still are sad that I'm not right there. But there is a point in your life where you have to take charge of what you want. And if you don't, then you're living someone else's dream. And, you might not see the impact of that right away, but later on in your life, and what I'm so freaking thankful I get to experience now, because I'm learning to listen, is that the closer I am into alignment, and this is every single day practice. This isn't just like I made a choice. I live on Maui. I have the best life ever. I got here. There's a ton of shit to work on, tons, and still every single day. And every single day, that recommitment to like, is this in my highest heart? Is this in my highest value? Am I in alignment? Allows me to then speak and help and support and serve from a place of my authentic purpose. And I don't, half the world is living asleep and not in that space. And one of the easiest ways to activate people, though, is to pour into their cup. Hey, water. It's interesting how it's all connected. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it did. Yeah, it resonates pretty hard, because that's why I left New Hampshire, because it was super comfy. I had a great network, but the lack of sunlight just kills you. So yeah, it's like 22 and I was clinically depressed. And I was like, okay, this makes zero sense, because it's like that for months out of the year. You're just in darkness and cold and misery. So yeah, I took the leap and went to Hawaii, to not Maui. I did Big Island and Oahu, but I learned how to farm, and I was like, oh, I need sunshine. Okay. So Asheville is a nice mix. Mountains of Western North Carolina are a really nice mix of New England and Hawaii. A little best of both worlds. A lot of tropical flavors and a lot of everything else. So yeah, mental health and making big leaps based off of what you know. I mean, there's as much moving towards something as running away from something. You know something's not working. So yeah, if your mental health is struggling, that is a great reason to make a massive shift.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, I just honor you for being willing to actually like question it, to question everything.
Yeah.
Question, all the stuff out there, but most importantly, to be able to question, in here, like, is this what I want? Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, family's the hard part for sure. Same
Mhm.
struggle, but good thing we can travel. So as long as you're happy, then yeah, I mean, have to fill your own cup first. If you're miserable, being around family will just make them miserable too.
Yeah, and that's just a storm of misery. And I think that was one of the reasons I also got started with this business. I was like, I want to be able to take my daughter. I want her to have like this amazing relationship with, all generations of my family. And I want to be there for, my dad and my mom and my brothers, like all their birthdays. And I want to be there for the holidays. And within the first Christmas after I started this, first holiday season after I started this business was the first time I'd been home in 10 years during the holiday season. Living and working on a tourist island, that's the busiest time here. You don't ever want to leave, you make the most money. But I was no longer in that space. I was like, I can go wherever I want. And it was so mind-blowing. My business like took off to a new level during that time. I think that's actually when you came on board, maybe, or it was the year after.
Exactly. That was
Yeah.
exactly that time. You were posting all over your stories that you were with your family, and yeah, I was done making excuses. Yeah,
Wow.
Annie's really good at like just like holding a really beautiful reflection and um like talking about the comfort zone, right? Like it was so uncomfortable for me as a single mom, not I mean, it was literally living in Mexico off of like $1,200 a month. Like, so to spend I invested in the ionizer and the Ukon first, and to spend 7 grand that I didn't necessarily have at the time was just such a big leap. And that comfort zone definitely changes a lot when you have kids. So it's like I was pregnant, and at the time it was like I'm done making excuses. And what Annie said, like she craves the water. Like I was like obsessively craving it. Like it was like if people say, "Oh, I have this pregnancy craving," like if the water was my pregnancy craving, and I was getting it from somebody who would go away very often. So like we hear it all the time. And he posted a lot on their stories. It's like people's text messages saying like, I left and I don't have my machine. And like, I only ever did that once. Like I literally went to Mexico without my machine, and I regretted it every day. Cause here I am buying bottled water, feeling like crap, spending money on water. And so, yeah, it's that comfort zone, and that mental health part of this is something I don't think it's talked about enough. I mean, we did a really cool class within Evolutionera all about mental health, but we don't really quite realize how much water affects the brain. And on that level of like getting out of your comfort zone, because most like Annie and I and have built our business primarily up until a few months ago for Annie, but organically. And so like our comfort zone was that, and my comfort zone was in person. And now, I'd love for you to touch base on like how you've transitioned now, and you're basically like calling in exactly who you want to work with. And now like, 10 plus people a day are coming out to you, reaching out to you, and asking like, what are you doing? How can I build this? Because we're talking about the comfort zone. Like we're in a pretty crazy time economically, right? So people are losing their jobs in droves. Alex talked to an ex-business executive in the tech world who's making really great money, right? But he's freaking miserable.
Yeah.
And so we hear this over and over and over again. So people are in that desperate state. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about like this new transition into like online ads and really being like a digital marketer, because I know for me that's been out of my comfort zone, something that I've been learning and really excited to get into. Alex has been in the tech industry for like a decade and a half at this point, and yeah, I just love for you to touch base on like that transition and how that's been.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a super fun transition and it just feels very seamless and easy at this point. I think, what we teach within Evolutionary in terms of organic marketing builds a foundation for you to develop your confidence and just step into that personal growth aspect of, like, if you are willing to be seen, and the only way I think to make sincere connections online is to show up in your authenticity. There's a lot of people on social media that are like, I mean, we see them. They're posting all the things, this, that, and the other. But if you go and you interview them like this, or you meet them at you run into them at the grocery store, are they that same person? And for me, from the beginning, and the mentorship that I've received was like, there's no hiding. Don't even try to hide. And I was like, well, I wouldn't even know how to hide if I could, if you've ever met me. But taking what I've learned through organic marketing and just realizing that if I want to further this business and scale to the $50,000 months that I'm headed towards right now, it's going to take a little bit of an alternative way of working the system to work yourself right on out of it. And so far, I've been able to do that organically, which means no paid advertising. What you see on my social media, my Instagram, my Facebook is what you get. I've never once, I've never once also, aside from that, the way I view organic marketing is you're not necessarily like cold calling any of your friends and family. I never once have ever DM'd since I started this business. I definitely did that in my superfoods business. In MLMs, we were taught to like make your list of 100 and then go talk to them. And it felt so skeezy to me. It was cringy the whole time. And maybe that's why I didn't make a lot of money with it. Like I was making probably like $1,200 a month with that to just get some numbers out there. But organically, what I've been able to create with like consistent $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 months is just like post on my stories, engage with other people that I want to work with, and share my life and what's really working for me. And I'm really thankful for that. But there was a point where I'm like, I want to do more. I want to create more. I like want to buy a house here on Maui. I really want to just like be able to provide more for my community. And I want to just live a richer life. Like, let's test the limits here. I'm here to live and travel more and help more. I want my voice to be shared with more people. So that is where automation comes in. And that's where paid advertising comes in. So currently, in full transparency, I'm spending like $11 now because I'm retargeting a campaign for $1, but I'm spending $11 a day, and I'm talking to anywhere between 10 and 15, specifically my audience that I have chosen. It's so crazy. They let you like find your people. There's like all these categories. I was like, why was I so resistant to this? I was like, oh, I can't figure it out. It's too like tech for me. And then I'm like, no, there's women out there I know who are at night putting their kids to bed after like waiting tables and being exhausted that are like, this sucks. Is this how it is? This can't be. And I'm here to show up and tell them and show them and lead by example that it doesn't have to be. And so I'm having these cool conversations. And what's really fun and what I'm finding about it is like, it's changing the entire energy of my business. Like when I'm posting and showing up and sharing, it's almost like boosted my confidence because I get to practice and really listen all day. I'm listening to people who reach out to me based off an ad that's been running overnight, and I'm in the last time zone in the state. So I get up, even if I get up at 5 during school days, I get up and I have messages of women who are like, tell me more about this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me what's going on in your life that has you actually open to, new possibilities. And the stories I'm hearing have me just further set on what we're doing. Like, I my most recent one was amazing. She's like, I want to be able to pay for my daughter's school entirely and the money to rent her a car. They own like a yacht business, and it looks like they're comfortable there, but she sees that this extra stretch of income, especially right now, they're not going to be able to do it. So it's time to talk all alternative. And now more than ever, what we're doing is so accessible. I see people I go online all the time, and whatever shows up on my Instagram every now and then. I'm like, what's that? That's a cool. Oh, I need that shirt, or I need, what's that product? Like, I'm curious, and I know everyone's doing that. So why not develop relationships in that way that casts a wider net for me, so I can start to get people in here and really see what we're doing. So it's been such a learning phase for me. but it's also such a reminder, like you can literally learn anything if you have a strong enough drive behind it. And I do. And you guys have heard it, so I don't need to say it further, but we have the tools and the training so mapped out in such a simple way. It's like, do this first, then do this first. And you're just doing it, but you're plugging in your own authenticity. And most of the content that I've created through organic marketing already is there. So I'm really just like plugging and playing into this new algorithm so that new people can see me. And now I get to meet new like Ashley DeMarcos every day. And I'm like, this is good. I'm so thankful. You know, because like Alex touched on, clinically depressed at 22. If you're listening to this and you're in that age group and you're not just like, huh, I hope that you hear this message, because I was in that same space. They put me on like every single kind of antidepressant, and each one just took me down a darker rabbit hole to the point where I was like, enough. And now that I know about this water, I'm like, how come no one said, what kind of water do you drink? Maybe you're dehydrated. So connecting the dots between, you know, our personal experience and trials and tribulations between, and the willingness to just seek anew here, is so powerful. And there's so many people in this space right now, and that's why our business is taking off to new heights. And that is also really fun too, because it fills our cup at the same time we get to pour into others. It's very cyclical, and you know, water has no beginning and no end. I just watched Avatar 2 for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is in my face. It's fun.
Yeah. It's everywhere. And just like you said, like we have all of the training, like any way that you want to build this, you know, and all three of us sitting here today, like we're doing it all the ways, right? Like it's not just like Annie started online automation and now she's not sharing the what, like she's doing every single aspect of that service space. But like at the first and foremost, she's filling her cup, and we get to witness it through her just sharing authentically on her stories. Just like she said, that is exactly what attracted me in. She was sharing on her stories, and like from her sharing on her stories, I've been able to lose weight, get healthier, like start, you know, we did I think it was last October, we all came together and we started doing like a gratitude practice, and we started working out together. And yes, we're not physically in the same location, but we are empowering each other, inspiring each other, teaching each other, reflecting through each other every single day through these different platforms. And I think it's just something that even in other low ticket MLMs that I've been a part of, I never had access to this level of leadership and this level of like real prosperity. Because like Annie said, like she was working a lot with her superfood business. Like she was putting in the time. It wasn't like she wasn't putting in the time, but the commission structure and the products, it just doesn't reward you in the way that a high ticket affiliate marketing does. So, you know, I just think, you know, when someone's looking for an opportunity, they're looking for a change, they're in a desperate state. Because I was also on antidepressants at 21, you know, like I think the three of us, you know, like that was what you did. I mean, I still had a lot of influence from my parents, and they went to the doctors, and the doctors just told them that. And that's what I did, because that's what I thought was right. Just like Annie was saying, like you just follow the things that other people tell you. Start living this life where other people are really controlling it. And so now with the water and really taking back that power, because it's really taking back the power, right? Because a lot of people are searching for like energy boosts, right? I see people all the time drinking energy drinks or just all sorts of things to boost their energy. But it's like, what if water was that basic thing that you needed to really boost your energy? So for me, for a lot of people, it just immediately boosts the energy. It gives you the foundation to now create. So now once you're in that space, it's like, okay, how do I want to do this? You have access to all of it. I mean, it's just like so abundant. And the leaders within our community, like Annie and people who've been in this a decade, Balaj W. Cardos, it's like he's creating things that are going to be like for everybody, which he has already. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing that just from one investment, you get access to all of these people. And so I would just love for you to share like the difference between your other network marketing company and this in terms of leadership, like how much access you have to the tools that have now moved you from the left side of the quadrant when we're talking about money mindset to the right side.
Okay. Yes. The shift into a new level of abundance consciousness is a wild one for sure. And you can't do it without community. So when you are in a space where you feel seen and heard, first off, I think that unlocks a lot of opportunity for people because they're recognized for being where they're at and they're also seen from where they want to be. And that's what we hold space for. And I feel like that is one of the most powerful things. Like when I first got started with this, obviously I was not making money and I was fully vested in my heart and soul because of the physical experience I was having. But I knew that people were like, I had a friend who was like, you should run a class, you should speak on this. Or I would ask a question on like an opportunity call and I was immediately responded to. And I was on Zoom calls 5 to 6 days a week in my low ticket MLM. And I was one of hundreds. And we were all on there. We were so dedicated, but there was a bunch of us. And now it makes total sense to me. There had to be hundreds and hundreds of us on this call because in order for the person who was running the call to make money, she needed all those 100 people. And she needed those people to show up every single day because at the end of the month, if they didn't, she was going to start back at zero. So there was like this, it was like this crazy chain effect of supply and demand of just like harping on all of us to show up every single day, even though we weren't making any money, but it all fed the big machine. And when I switched over to high ticket, there was less of a like demand for me to be there every single day. It was more like you want to be there every single day because when you're there, you're rewarded in such a way that like actually allows you to do more of this that you can. So then there's the ripple effect right there. Like then you can show up again and again. And that's even the reason why I'm able to run ads and automation. And that was never ever taught in my low ticket MLM. There was you weren't making enough to have like the ability to spend $300, $400, $500 a month in order to get your return on investment, which for me right now on a single machine or someone to start their business is over $2,700. On the best way to start their business, it's over $7,000. What's $300? Like we're just working in larger numbers here. But because of that, we're able to sink in to the ability of like working within our own time frames. Like there is no end of the month hustle. And I think that energy is transferred so what's the word I'm looking for? Fluidly. This is all water references here. It is. It's so fluid that people are able to come in and out of this business on their own time frame, and that allows a sense of ease in the conversations with new people who are interested. I don't need every, Sue, Sam, and Sheila to join my business. I just need the woman who's really ready. And with that, I can help her. She can help me. There's a sincere connection. I have the time for her. And, we can really connect and move past those blocks as you're shifting into this grander scale of receiving abundance. That's in the abundance consciousness. It can take some time to really look around and say, I do want more, but isn't money bad? Like there's so many people who are still in this space of like, I don't want to spend any money to get started. I am totally strapped for cash and I don't see a way out of this. Well, this is where we come in and teach you how to work the system, what the difference between good debt and bad debt, and pair that with actionable items that you can do every single day on your own time. Put the kids to bed, get to the training, have a moment to yourself at work on your lunch break, tune in to and go check on your ads that you've run, because you got home from work and you were willing to spend like 1 to 2 hours to learn. The duplication process here is like nothing I've ever experienced before, but the combination, and this is really important for me, is the ability to do it on my own schedule and not have to show up every single day at 8 a.m. on a Zoom to listen to somebody talk. Like I love plugging in with my team and it's very important to me, but I don't need to do it every single day in all these micro doses in order to make a micro amount. I do it at a macro dose once a week. I get what I need. I'm talking to my team throughout the week, and I'm also I'm repaid, I'm compensated on a macro level. We're just tipping the scales in a new direction. And the leadership here has shown that. Like, obviously we're led by, 6, 7, 8 figure earners on a regular basis, that what they've been able to create in terms of wealth that they're passing on to their families in, let's use Balaj as an example, 10 years. People work their whole life and at that pace and never receive that, let alone what is going to come from him when he says, I'm cool, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to retire at 40, and it's just the passive income that's coming from that. So look to those who have what you want, look to those who are creating what you desire, and all the keys are there and they're all laid out for you. And that's what we're doing for people right now. I'm here, I'm doing what I've done in 3 years so that someone who's listening to do this can do it in one, and that's why we have a training platform and a community. Duplication is so satisfying too. It's so satisfying to see other people like be set free and just, get to work. Like 1 to 3 hours a day, you can build this business easy. I'll say it time and time and again. If I can, they can. You can. Anybody can.
Riffing on that, Ashley mentioned my friend earlier, he's a pretty high up in the Internet of Things at Charter, and we were having pretty in-depth, like heart to heart about. We've been friends for about a decade in tech before I left, and his goal was to work another decade and then he could retire. He's in his early 40s and he's like, if I can just keep this salary for another decade of being miserable, I can retire. And I was like, that you can take like $5,000, which you wouldn't miss at all from your salary, and you can start an entirely new career. Like all of the opportunities that I use, my primal health coaching, this one, a bunch of them, microgreens, you can literally, you no longer have to spend 40 grand in 4 years to start a new career, especially this one. Mm-hmm. He could do match that same income level faster and not hate his life. Like there are so many more opportunities, but people don't know them because it's still, and I have this all the time, it's still a conditioned mindset, usually from working class parents. You have to go through the steps to reap the reward. And you're like, no, you just have to provide value. So it's just finding a better way to provide value. Like you still have to learn. I still have to learn, but automation can help you skip years of learning. Like you don't have to do the trial and error. So, I mean, he was pretty excited when he heard that, because just the thought of having to do something you don't like getting up in the morning for another 10 years when you're 40. So, trying to retire around 55. And he's a pretty great guy and highly intelligent. So if you're willing to learn, you can literally shift entire career trajectories and be in the same financial spot very quickly. Most businesses don't even break even in 3 years, and you're doing way better than that in 3 years. So yeah, there's not many opportunities like this.
I mean, that's 3,650 days that he's going to wake up and be miserable. Right. What does that do to someone's health? Okay, now you're 50 and you're retired and you just took a decade of like not having any vitality. So again, I love what Annie just said about like what we tap into when we get to this space, because the people that we get to learn from, I would have never been able to be learning from if I didn't drop in with this opportunity. I honestly, I like message Balaj on a personal basis. He knows my name. Like I never would have access to these type of people who actually care about our well-being. I mean, like he literally has a goal to make 1 million millionaires, And so it's like, but that mindset is definitely a little bit more challenging within the health conscious, more crunchy, sovereign, freedom loving community. I find a lot of times people are, it's at least where we live. Yeah. I know there's a lot of homesteaders in Maui too, but like it's almost like a fad to be like broke homesteading, and like people are really like turned off by wealth consciousness and when you say, oh, I'm making 5 or 6 figures, they're just like, it just doesn't feel possible to them. So, I mean, it is very expensive to live in Maui. And most people I know when I lived in Kauai were working 3, 4 jobs
Yeah.
just to pay the bills. Nothing extra. They couldn't go visit their family on the mainland. They couldn't really even like do an excursion, right? Like, so how, I know, how do you help somebody in that space of like just thinking this is what it's like, especially in an expensive area or a tourist area? Because where we live here, if you're working locally, if you have a job here, you're a service person. Like it's a tourist town. Most of the people that work here aren't even, again, I know a lot of people who work jobs and they're still on food stamps. So it's just they can't even afford food for their kids, but they're still working. And so I think a lot of the people that will be listening to this, especially our local listeners, like how do you help somebody get, and like I just from your perspective and in our community and the people you've learned with, were you in this wealth conscious mindset before you started with Magic? And is this yeah, just
Yeah, I got you for sure. Yeah, good question. I see that a lot. The poverty consciousness. It's so interesting. I think about be in the world but not of it kind of thing. And right now there's so many of us that have one foot in both worlds, but there's a lot of people who are just they want to check out completely. They want to be off grid. They want to be like they're homesteading. They don't pay the man and all these things. I don't think we're quite there yet. And I think for the people that are homesteading, and if they're struggling and they're still plugging into a job, then there has to be a connection to realize, like, I could say it over and over again. This is one of the themes right now is like, you need to work the matrix to work yourself right on out of it. And we have the tools. And I know a lot of those people, like, because I see the accounts that are homesteading, they're on Instagram. They're maybe even monetizing their Instagram account through sharing about homesteading. So why not magnify that with a tool that then passes that gift of learning how to monetize the matrix on? And obviously that's what we've talked about. We teach and train on, and we have a vehicle for that. But I think for people to just say like, F this, I'm out of here, screw the system, and then not have an actual plan to still take from it while they're weaning their way out of it is ludicrous. It's ridiculous to think that we aren't there yet. We're getting there. But first of all, you need to take a whole community with you. And if you think you're just going to do this on your own, we were never ever meant to. Look at our history. We're tribal people. We thrive in communities. And if you think you're going to do it on your own, and you're still saying fuck the man wants you in solidarity. The system wants you singled out and working on your own, because then you're under full attack. You are by yourself. We are stronger together. And so just like putting all these pieces back together, for me, it's been obviously a process to step into, like, realizing that, like, if I really do want to make a change right now, I can obviously do that with my energy and my yoga classes and my intention. But then I'm like broke and I'm stressed over bills and I'm not able to see my kid because she needs to go to daycare so I can go to work. And I'm like, wait a minute. But I'm doing all these things, like I'm energetically in alignment and I'm living in my gifts. No, I'm not at all, because I can share those things. But if I'm stressed about my finances, like case in point, we're still in the money matrix. And all the people that say that we aren't, if I see them on social media, I'm like, you're on social media. You're still in the matrix. I'm so sorry, until you fully live off grid. And why are you on Instagram? Why are you in the matrix? You could be looking for alternative opportunities. Yay, you're at the top of the list. Congrats. You could be looking for health opportunities because you're like strapped and you're sunlight deprived, or you need to find new ways to like figure out how to grow all your own food. Or maybe 3, you're craving connection, you're craving community, you're out there by yourself and you're looking for other people. Like, are you doing this too? Do you want this too? And what we have is all encompassing for that. And so it's really our job. I feel like we are ambassadors of this right now. It is our responsibility. And I appreciate you guys holding space for podcasts like this and sharing this information, because not everyone is fully able to see that we are still melded in both. And it was explained like this to me by the woman who got me involved in this. It was like, if you want a grander experience, you need to move a grander amount of energy. And if you look at energy as in our current time and space as money, this is how we give and exchange energy. You get a massage, that's energy work. How do you pay for that massage? You pay for it with money. That is you saying thank you back. That is the cyclical reciprocity of them giving you their skill and their craft. We're still in that space. So just for me, it was like owning that, like, okay, I want larger amounts of money. I need to set that intention. Never spent $10,000 on anything in my life. Like the most expensive thing I've probably ever spent out of this was like international tickets that were, they're always over $1,000 coming off the island. So always, every time I spend on the ticket, I purchase. Okay. But like this new wave, this is what did it. It was like the catalyst. And if I had to do it again and it was $20,000, I would do it because it would take me to a higher height faster. It was like immediately I said, okay, $10,000 paid in full. Here's for my trifecta. It was like the universe or whatever you want to call it was like, game on, sis. You ready for this? And it was just like, it was cyclical. It was reciprocity, energy in, energy out. And for me, now that I see that, all it is the energy matrix that we're given in our current paradigm right now is money. And until we shift out of that, you can either live blindly, and most times, and I was in this space, so I don't mean to harp on anyone who's there, you will get out of it. But most of those times it's a place of lack and you don't have enough. So being willing to face that and being willing to be like, okay, they're not winning by me saying I want to spend more money on this, because right now money is creating a lot of good in the world and a lot of service. So by you saying yes to that, it really opens new doors. And I've found that out immediately. And it's really interesting how what we have as a vehicle and a container, but also the support and the coaching and mentorship and training will help you get there. Like we'll hold it's basically like the bridge for you living a more service-filled, passion, filled, balanced, harmonious, just really rich life, present life with your kids and your family. Like you can have all that and you can still have like one hand in the understanding that it's taking money right now. It takes money, it takes investments, it takes you kind of stretching yourself. And if that means you put something on a credit card more than you ever have in order to start this, let me be the first to tell you, and hopefully not the first, that it is well worth your time. And we will be here to support you through that, just kind of like, ooh, I don't know feeling. We're just here to remind you, look to others who are doing what you are doing, what you want to do, and living the life that you want to create. They are showing up in your sphere, in your space for a reason.
And the legacy aspect, right? Like if you just stop contributing to the matrix, you stop paying the man, you stop doing all those things, you don't care about your credit score, all these things. It's like, my 6-year-old is super motivated by money and I want him to be able to be paid by my business. I'm learning these skills through this avenue, right? I'm learning how to take more of my power back by having an online business, by being a digital marketer, by being a content creator. I can write off so many of the things that I was doing already now through this vessel. And it's like, none of this stuff I knew before I had access to people making this level of wealth, because I don't think, the current, whatever you want to call it as it is, matrix, whatever, they don't necessarily want the common person knowing these tools, because it's taking more of the power away from them. And so I love everything that you said, and I totally align with all of that. And I really was in the place where I just wanted to get to Mexico, get away, not have debt, not have like really any assets. And now I have an asset that sits on my countertop literally that I will be able to, if my son who's 6 wants to go to college in, 15 years, like I will be able to say, take this to college with you. If he wants to start his own business, he will have access to that. And I think that legacy part is like just not something a lot of 20, even 30-year-olds even think about, right? Like they're just like getting through the month. And that's what I see a lot is people are just like existing. I'm going to get through the month, but then at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, I start back at 0. And that is not like from a place of mental health, that is not a feeling of ease. It's a feeling of stress, and it's a feeling of constantly knowing money is going out. And that energy that you're talking about money being, which I totally believe that it is, if you're constantly so afraid of money going out to bills that you need, like you need a mortgage or a rent, you need a house, a roof over your head, you need food on the table, you need gas in your car to get to the work, to get to the job, to take your kids to school, you need those things. So to be in this space of wealth consciousness to me means like I'm excited to pay that massage therapist $150 for her time. I'm excited to put gas in my car. I'm excited to pay my mortgage because I know it's I'm in a much better place of loving money instead of being afraid of it now. And I see that for a lot of people within this community. So Alex, is there anything else we need to tap on before we hop off?
I just wanted to say that both of your stories just echo the hero's or heroine's journey where I mean, I had that same drive of trying to get away from everything, which is why I started to learn how to farm and I went to Hawaii. And that's about as far away from any community that I had built as existed. But you hit a point, or I hit a point, where I was like, I'm definitely running away from something, and I masked it with learning a skill. So part of the hero's journey is you do have to get out of your familiar comfort zone and stretch yourself, but you always come back to present the value. So it's people can try to get out, but the real reward that I found is coming back into the community and imparting them with everything you stretched yourself with and everything you learned and then reintegrating. So I don't think you could do it alone. Community is such a big, just for all aspects of health. Like you can try to be the healthiest person financially or physically or emotionally you want, but it's real hard to do by yourself, and it's so much easier in community. It's necessary.
So much easier. Well said. Yeah, we're all supposed to do this together, and that's actually the best part. As a self-proclaimed loner and introvert, I have found that all those titles I gave myself, there's respect to that. Yeah, energetically sensitive, I need my alone time, but I don't have the skill set and the diversity, and nor do I want to try to achieve it in short amount of time that it would require for me to fully help more people and just live in a rich, passionate, like service forward life that I have by tapping into community. And it's just like, and also what I've learned in anyone in relationships or has been out, that you learn so much more when you're in relationship, when you're in community, when you're connected with others, and to find a community of like-minded individuals who is really seeing the times at hand for what they are and being willing to create new foundations and new paths, because things are burning down right now, but it doesn't have to be like they burn down and you're just like done. There's like building happening while the collapse of whatever we've known up until this time is collapsing. There are alternative routes to, not necessarily to escape, but to build anew. And I'm thankful for you both. This has been really fun.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Where can people find you, Annie?
You can find me on Instagram, I think is probably the most accessible way. Thanks for plugging me. It's Annie G Davis with just 1 underscore on Instagram. I'm on Facebook too as well, but it's a little bit trickier to navigate that matrix. But Annie G Davis on Instagram underscore would be where I'm at. Looking forward to connecting with your audience and just answering any questions that anyone has. I'm here to share this truth in full transparency, and that truth will set you free.
Agreed. Well said. Anything you'd like to add in closing, Ashley?
I mean, these are the the two, Alex and Annie right here, the most consistent and authentic humans. Like, I am so honored and grateful that I get to work with the two of you, and just, yeah. So if you have any questions for either of them, definitely, like, tears in my eyes, because I've been in so many, I've worked in corporate, I've worked in beverage sales, I've worked in many industries. I've been working since I was 14 years old, and I've never had this level of accountability, of just like holding each other to a higher standard. And just knowing, like, this is really just the beginning for all of us. A wonderful guy in our community, Garrett, he says we're trading the 9 to 5 for the 5 to 9. And I really think, like, 5 to 9 years is not really that long when you look at most of the population that's working till they're 60 or 70 years old, and then still not even getting to retire. And, like, again, what quality of life do you have if you worked a job for 45 or 50 years that you don't enjoy? And so you can see it in Annie, you can see it in Alex, you can see it in me. We really love what we do. We fill our cups every day. And so if you are somebody who is not feeling good mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, like, just reach out to us, follow us on social media, follow the journey, because again, we're constantly trying to share exactly what Alex said, that service of, like, how we got from that place where you might be at, because we were all there, to the place that we're at now. And again, it's not just like, we're here, we made it. Like, it's continuous, but we're all doing it together. And that community aspect we keep touching on, you might not think that you need it. Like, you might, like, oh, I've got family, or I've got this. And I had all that. I saw I have a great family, right? Like, I have friends and great family, but I've never had this level of accountability where people are, like, doing things way bigger than anybody I grew up with, traveling to places, providing their kids with a legacy that's beyond what I could have ever imagined for myself. And I know that it's possible if I just continue, tap in with this, tap in with myself, fill my cup. This is my Ukon tea. This is my gallon I'm finishing right now. But I just spent the whole day pretty much with my kids. I'm working right now. I'll be working for another hour. You can do this. The only excuse lives in your head. Like, when you put it out there and you share it with us, we'll be able to help you. Like, okay, this is the next step. Here's where you need to go. And like Annie said, we have years of training that we've put together to really support anybody wherever they're at. So we're really good at meeting you where you are. So again, just reach out, share your story, and yeah, we're here for you.
Wonderfully said. You can find all of the podcast episodes and follow individual stories and us as a collective if you search for Evolution Era. I'll put all of our individual socials, and then the collective is Appalachian Water Collective /podcast for the podcast. And we'll see everyone next week. Thanks for tuning in.